Hello, everybody. My name is Jamie Burleigh, and today I'd like to share with you my testimony and background from my faith and religion as a child to where I'm at today. Just letting you know if I look to the side here, it is just to stay on track and to keep things moving along. All right, my background. I was brought up in a Methodist family and went to a Methodist church. We went to church that I remember just a few times a year. Certain recognized holidays, baptisms of other family members, and marriages. That's really about it. I'm not blaming my family. It's just what it was. That was my experience at church. I didn't have a really strong foundation in that atmosphere. In my teens, there was no church. I was a teen boy with a car, doing my thing. All right, I was just sowing my wild oats, I guess, and religion was not a big thing for me at that time. Uh, Nothing can hurt me at that point. I felt. Um, I got married directly out of high school. I got married young, and it was my first marriage, and uh, it was it wasn't short and sweet. It was short, thankfully, and that's where I really learned hate and hopelessness and despair. It was horrible, and I want to go into one of my first encounters. 2 or 3 years into that first marriage, it was really, really bad. Um, Sometimes I slept in the bed, sometimes I slept in the floor, sometimes I slept in another room. It uh, it was at that point, right? Um, I have a few notes here. uh, it's going to be shocking to some, but it's really the truth, and I call it the Book of Job. It was my first encounter with good and evil right in front of my face, right in front of my very eyes. It was really something. Um, my notes are demon on the ceiling, found Bible, woke in the chair, was it a dream? Question mark, and anointed door. I wanted to make sure that I have these points noted so I can cover them because they're very important, I think. The Book of Job. This is my story, right? Okay, first encounter with good and evil. I was laying in bed. I thought I would, I was in bed, I woke up, and I was going to wake up my wife at the time because I thought the apartment was on fire. I thought it was on fire. It looked like black, thick, black, rolling smoke coming in on the ceiling from our door. Okay, it looked like thick black smoke. I was in shock, right? But it was something. I was paralyzed. I felt like I couldn't move, speak, anything like that. So it was kind of, I knew it wasn't a fire. Maybe at that point, I don't really recall. I was just paralyzed and I was just watching it like it was a nightmare. So I thought I was just dreaming. And I seen body parts like in a weird scary movie. I saw arms and legs, and I saw a big ominous figure with no face, uh, eyes that were discernible, and horns. So that shook me a lot. And I remembered like coming to, meaning I was like fully paralyzed. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move really until I broke out of that, and I rolled off the side of my bed and I ran into the living room, and I wasn't sure what to do. Well, I take that back. I ran into the living room and I was not sure what I was going to do. Run out the door, try to wake up my wife, get a drink of water. But my first instinct was to grab a Bible, and that's never happened to me before up until that point. So I was, and I didn't keep the Bible on a bookshelf next to the table. It was in boxes because it was my children's Bible, the only Bible I had that I just felt it was gifted to me, and I just felt that I had to hang on to it for sentimental reasons. And it was the Bible. I just felt like it had some sort of reverence, and I needed to keep that around. But that was my first instinct: is grab my Bible. Okay, so I ripped through a couple of cupboards in the back room and or boxes in the back room, and I grabbed the Bible and I sat down in the chair and a I was avoiding looking into the bedroom where all of this stuff had been happening, and uh, I don't know if it was still there. I think I was too afraid to look up and investigate. So I just sat in a chair and I opened up the Bible. Didn't know where, but I opened up the Bible and I started reading. And I recall, uh, I don't recall, I absolutely remember it was the book of Job. I started reading, and a lot of those words and stories was on parallel with what I was experiencing. The testing, the trying, the demons, the needing to know, and it just was a reflection of exactly what I was going through. It was eye opening. It kept my attention, my focus. I didn't think about anything else. And the last thing I remember was waking up in that chair. So was it a dream? I wanted to put names and definitions on that experience that I've never encountered before, but that's the story. Take it for what it is. That's what happened to me, to my best recollect. And I had woke up in the morning and I was exhausted, like I had run a marathon. I don't run, but if I had ran a marathon, I imagine that's what it would feel like. So um, I woke up and it wasn't quite daylight yet, and the sun was starting to rise. I opened the door. I did it really quietly because my ex-wife was still sleeping in the bed, and I was just trying to get a hold of myself and to really make sense of what just happened those last few hours. And I cracked the door open, and it was a flat or a matte brown colored paint on the outside of my entry door. And when I started to push it shut, I wasn't sure where I was going. I just felt the need that I had to go outside, leave. And then I'm like, where am I going? Whatever. I just got some fresh air and I went back. I was going to go back into the apartment. And on the door, right there on the door, it looked like somebody had taken oil. It was shiny. It was oil. And there was a cross on my door. I didn't know anything about anointing. I didn't really know anything about that stuff, but it looked like somebody had their finger dipped in oil and put a cross on my door. And I I I don't remember much after that. Honestly, that stood out so much. Um, I think my takeaway is I was absolutely encountering some demons and some bad stuff, and it affected my dream state and my person. I was in despair. I was in a very bad spot, and I was directed specifically on what to do, and it brought me through it. Period. End of story. And that's kind of it. And I had buried that for a long time, but what I do recall, those were the highlights, and that was that. And soon after that, I got divorced because it was super bad, right? And I wasn't. You would think that would have shaken me to the point where I would seek and really try and figure out what was going on, but it was more scary than anything else, and I just kind of buried it. That's really about it. Then the last 20 years, That was a quick jump, but in the last 20 years, I had no real religious presence or spiritual guidance in any way. I got remarried, but I felt something was missing, and I never really pursued or pushed faith, really. I was married in a Catholic church and went through their rules and steps to get married, and I felt like a church guilt. I don't even know if that's a word, but church guilt. I felt guilty for using the church to be married, to be recognized by God in another marriage. Like, it just didn't feel right. Something was missing, and yet again, I stepped back and just let it be. I just stayed in the moment. But something was still missing. All right. I had a few more children, and in my marriage, it was kind of rocky. I was doing the thing. I was working a job 6-7 days a week. I wasn't happy. I thought it was a midlife crisis, so I quit my job. My wife basically kicked me out at that point, and she said, "Go do whatever it is, that makes you happy, then come back." I'm like, wow. Wow, I better get my crap together at that point. I didn't know what to do. I was already divorced. I didn't want to get divorced again. I needed something. I felt I was missing something. I there was something missing. I'll just say that. So um, that led me on a different path. I wanted to get right. I wanted to get happy, make myself happy again. Maybe if I made myself happy, I would be a different person, and that kind of change everything. No, I didn't go out and buy a hot rod or a Harley. I pursued my passion for a job in the outdoors, something that I really loved and that I missed because I worked 20 years in a factory in the city. So a few years went by. I worked into a position into one of the top outdoor and survival schools in the nation at the time, and that's really where I met Jason. Um, my next set of notes here says saved. Um, yes, it's where I believe I was absolutely saved, and Jason showed me the way. And this one is kind of short and sweet, but saved, got saved, gas money story. Like, gas money story. Well, from my tenure at the school in teaching and everything else, this story stands out, one, because it was when I really felt that I met God. I let Jesus into my heart and soul and life from that point. So that is something that I will never forget. And I don't, and I won't. So I'd like to share with you that story, that when I actually let Jesus into my heart, and Jason kicked that door open for me. Okay. It was the end of a few day survival class, and we were wrapping up. There was only a couple of instructors left on the property escorting the students out, and from the location where the students were camping, there was a long walk and an uphill climb, walk, whatever, to the parking area where they got into their cars and they exited the property. I was I don't know if I was the lead instructor at that point, but I was the instructor, just taking care of the last few things down at camp, making sure nobody forgot anything. And I was getting ready to walk up the hill and get my truck to throw everything in it and go home. And I remember my heart was really heavy because before I ever started the class, I had let Jason know that there's a few things that happened where the money that I was paid for this class, I used it, and I barely had enough money to get down there gas wise, because it was like a 6.5, 7 hour drive. I had no money in my pocket. I had a job to do, so I got there and I just did the thing. We had a great class. I told Jason what was weighing on me. He knew something was up. He's like, "Look, man, just pray about it." And he made it sound so simple. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I said, Jason, I can recall how many times I've prayed in my life, and I can count them on each finger on one hand, and I'd probably still have a finger or two left. I said, I don't pray. I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to pray for. And he laughed and he said, come on, and he kind of gave me that thing. And he said, no, let's pray about it. And I'm like, okay. And I can tell you, I probably was just looking off in the atmosphere or just saying, gosh, what am I going to do? Not thinking that this is going to work or anything. But he did. And we did together. And late at night when we were at the campfire, we talked a little bit more, and we got through the class. And I was dreading my own personal walk up that hill, because I then had to talk to my boss about getting some extra money for gas to make it home. I just felt like horrible, like what a loser, and I just hated entertaining any type of a conversation like that. So I was just gritting my teeth, making sure that my job at hand was finished, and I was getting ready to leave. Jason had walked up just earlier and escorting the students off the property. And while I was walking back, no, I want to stop for a second. Before Jason made it up the hill, he's like, "Are you all right, buddy? You all right? You cool?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead, go home, whatever." And I was just basically saying, "Jason, it's time for you to go. I got this. Just go home." And he said, "No, I want to pray for you right now." And I'm like, I just kind of, that last gasp, that last breath that came out was something leaving my body. It's just like a relief, and nothing else was going on at that time. And he says, "Man, brother, I want to pray for you, and I want, I think you really need to be saved, delivered." I forget the exact words, and I said the words, and I did the thing, and he's like, "There, everything's all set." Sorry, just. Then he went up the hill, and I didn't have any doubt anymore. I didn't. I doubted all weekend. I didn't have any more doubt. I was like ready to accept what was coming my way. Like, if lightning had struck me down at that point, that's just what would have happened. It is what it is at that point. I just gave it all to Jesus, right? That's what you hear. That's what I heard. But while I was walking up the hill, I think I was moping a little bit. I was going a little slow. I was looking at the grass. I was kicking the dirt as I was walking up the hill, and I hear somebody huffing and puffing round in the corner, and it was a student. Hey, getting my attention. And he stopped me and he said, "Look, before I left, I wanted to make sure that I told you that it was him and his two sons had taken a course together, and they were with my group that I instructed that weekend." And he said he just wanted to let me know how appreciative he was, yada yada. You spent so much time with my boys and myself. I appreciate that, yada yada. And he just wanted to. He kept shaking my hand, and then he took his other hand, and he closed it around mine. And at that point, I felt that there was something in there, and I knew what it was. I knew it was some folded up money. And I'm like, I looked up and I started shaking my head. I'm like, no. I get paid. I love what I do. I thank you. And I've already been paid in many ways. Thank you. Don't worry about it. And he grabbed my hand tight and pulled me close. He said, "No." Sorry. He said, "You need this." He said, "Take it. I'm going home." And okay, I just took it and I just put it in my pocket. Didn't even look, right? So I walked up to my truck, and I was getting ready to drive down the hill to throw all of my camping gear in it and leave. And well, not without asking my boss for some gas money for the ride home. It cost almost $100 in gas at that time for the big truck I was driving. So I I started to get into my truck, and I reached in for my keys. And before I got to my keys, it was that wadded up money, and I looked, and it was a wadded up $100 bill. I Coincidence? I don't know. You know, I, it was then. I'm like, that's when things started to happen, and it isn't all about money. Don't get me wrong, but the ride home, that was usually a 6.5 hour ride, made longer because I was tired. That time seemed like it was a blink of an eye. I don't even remember the drive home. It kind of scared me too, because I could have gotten an accident. So I made the drive, and it was peaceful, and I remember having the feeling of, like, I can do anything. Like, what comes to my head is new life, right? New life. And from that point on, things were coming. And I want to say things because if I were to make a claim that it was a miracle, right? For those that don't believe in miracles, that would be very hard to believe. But I'm going to tell you, before I would call it coincidence, karma, chance, luck, it was an all-out miracle, right? I can honestly say it was a miracle. I want to address it as a miracle. I hope you'll soon see and realize and see some of the experiences that I have been having ever since accepting Jesus into my life and letting him take control, that you will be experiencing miracles. And here's the kicker. Here's the real kicker. I want to just stop and say this. You have been experiencing miracles your whole existence. You just did not recognize it as such, because people in your life or your surroundings just don't. Believe me that there are miracles, and I know that they're miracles because luck is winning the lottery, right? Luck is winning the lottery. Is it luck winning the lottery 7 times in a row, 7 days in a row, when you asked for it? Oh, it's a coincidence. It's the odds are crazy, but it's a coincidence. Is it a coincidence? It was thrown in my face time and time again that I was always looking for proof. I need an existence of God. If God struck Jason down at the time that he was saving me on that school property on that day, if God had struck him down with lightning, I would be in church every day without fail, right? But I believe that I have work to do, and if I put my part in, I will get rewarded tenfold, and I have been. The best way for me to explain that to someone who doesn't quite get it or understand the story that I'm trying to make clear is that we don't get paid on Monday for the work that we're going to do during the week. We just got to do the work. If we do the work, we're going to get our compensation. And my compensation has been coming at me over and over again. Maybe not monetarily, but I'm recognizing them as such, as the things that I need, the answers I need, the guidance I need to make better decisions for something down the road, that I'm like, oh, looking back, that's why I did this, then that helped me better deal with what I'm experiencing now. Like, in God's time, he knew that I was going to be experiencing this at the time I was, So he provided me the tools to get through that time. He's always been there. And that's what I was missing, that connection, that relationship. And I still don't understand. I'm walking into this new time in my life, later in life, as a child, just waiting, for the next command. I'm basically doing what he says, and honestly, he's always giving me choices. I don't have to do it. But I'm finding more and more, if I do what he says, nothing bad comes from good, and it is proving in my life that over and over again. So that was my saved story. I got saved, my gas money story, and then I have now. Now, I have, looking back, I was wasting time looking for proof of something that already was. I don't know what else to say after that. I could share more encounter stories, but that's really how my Jesus story began, and it began in the wilderness with Jason. And I have the last two things I'd like to share before I leave. It's getting on with it. It's almost a half hour in. I wrote down that I wanted to thank you for your patience and understanding. Listening to me share my story, my testimony with you right now. Those two words, patience and understanding. Yet again, this is that full circle thing that kind of is weird and has always been happening to me lately. When I asked Jason on that hillside what to pray for, because I didn't want to pray for me, I didn't want to pray for $100 to get me back home. He said, pray and ask for patience and understanding. Those were his words. That is what Jason told me to say verbatim. That's it. And the rest will come. Well, here we are. And I wanted to share with you those highlights on me and my journey to where I'm at right now, talking to this camera, to share with you my Jesus story. And that it is real. I don't know what else is going to come of it, but it's all I can say is it's good. And don't waste your time. Don't wait. Repent, believe, and start your journey with him now. It's nothing but good. Okay? And thank you for your time, your patience, and your understanding. And this has really helped me a little bit, open up a little bit more, because I now just shared with the world. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody, and I hope you have a blessed day.